see your demons, I'm telling them it's on sight. I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh. Try to correct me.
Okay, let's come back to it. We were talking right before the break. You said, I would love to bring that final knowledge on how to approach the client, how to stand out, how to do all that. Let's get after it. Let's make it into this next 15, 20 minutes. Let's just finalize it strong. Like that way, if people, for whatever reason, you were too lazy to hear the whole podcast, hear these next 15, 20 minutes because they're going to be fire. Here we go.
Well, again, if you put yourself in their shoes and you think of how you would approach that situation, I do want to repeat something I said earlier, and that is, one, have the confidence to approach that you're equal. You're not less than me just because I'm doing the hiring in this case, or maybe a circumstance where you're doing the hiring next. We're equals. And that approach of I deserve that relationship with the person that hired me in order to give them the best possible scenario is your right. And if someone's blocking that from you, don't take that as an opportunity to maybe have one less client you have to visit. Take that as an opportunity, a challenge to, I'm going to get in there and get to know this vendor manager, because I know that even if they're not ready or they don't have the time, that we can find some common ground. And I also know that I can talk to them enough to find a way to help them. If there is something that's going on that they are dealing with, I can dig in and bring resources or solutions to them with that as well. So that would be my approach as a vendor approaching a client. And I would also speak to them as if I understood their business. I would know even if they may not know the industrial model, how different it is from an office space in the janitorial business, but it's not hard to check in on what that model looks like. Of course, Google's an amazing resource in learning what you can, but understanding the business model really helps you know how you can support that client in a better, stronger way. The other thing that I would do is, I notice that most of my vendors do not herald their own program. So they don't come and tell me, oh, guess what? Like I said earlier, we're doing seasonal change, or we're doing a winter clean out, or this is our process, and we really want to make sure you get to take advantage of that. And they just do it as a matter of protocol. Okay, it's this time of the year, so we're doing this a little bit differently. But I would speak to that. I would let them know I bring value, and this is how I bring value. And this is why it's important to have a clean facility space, especially if you're dealing with anything critical, even something like clothing where there's an opportunity to not have it go as well. But I would integrate everything that I do into their main focus, and I would come to know what their concerns are. Is it budgetary? Is it the fact that they struggle to keep their equipment running? And what is it? And what can I do to help them with that? Is there any piece of that? Could I perhaps develop a team to help you clean something like a forklift or an equipment if that's what you're struggling with? And I may not, but I may also know somebody. So I'm going to be your resource. I want you to think of me when you're looking for a way to solve something, or I want you to know that partnership's there, that I care about you. So I'm going to take those extra steps. Everybody says it, they do, but I probably had 15 housekeeping or janitorial or whatever we call them at the time, vendors in my scope, and I've really only ever had one that made the point to even be there for their teams. Maybe because some of the contracts were only 2 or 3 porters a day. But you couldn't get them on site. They don't talk to the training. It'd be so great because they have to hear all the time from safety. It's a big deal. So we hear about chemical control and safety, and what an amazing thing to be able to say, hey, this month my team all got safety training. Is there anything in particular that you guys are focusing on? Or is it possible for me to pay my team to set it on your monthly? They'd be thrilled. I mean, anyone that's willing to take that next step to protect their building, because if you're really in the safety mindset, you understand the value of more people being educated in that. So of course you would let that happen. Or may I create a round table where you can tell us what isn't exactly how you would like to see it, or what you need more of? May I do that? And I think in time you're going to break through that more stubborn client, but also treat your business like you're proud. You're not a house cleaner. You're not out there cleaning a home. You're cleaning an industrial complex that has 1,000 customers that are going through your bathrooms all day long. And so be the one that says, hey, I've taught my team how to let you know better. I noticed there was an out of order sign on the wall, and I came and asked you, did you know that toilet was out of order? You said, no, I didn't know. Let me get the guy out here. Because none of us will leave a toilet out of order. And I don't know of anyone that thinks that's a good idea when the toilets are always in shortage anyway in big complexes. So, and they're hard to get to. They're in a lot of corners of the building. And to be able to say, this is the program I'm teaching my team this week, or this is what I'm working on, I think would be paramount. So be as proud. And the other piece of advice I'd give that I notice a lot of is most people don't know their business model. And I don't know how that's even possible, but it is a truth that, and like we started out earlier, if you're going to invest in any program and look at your ROI, part of that is you being at the ground where you can accept that information. I was giving the ladies yesterday an example of how I paid for when I opened my travel agency. I also thought, well, maybe I could do, because I do business consulting on the side, and maybe I could do several of my clients and several of my little businesses need bookkeeping services. So maybe I can do that. And I paid for a very nice bookkeeping program, and then I wasn't ready for it, so I didn't transition. It's still available to me, but the thrill's gone, and the money's spent, It's paid off, and I haven't utilized it. So I know we all have a story like that where we didn't utilize a great concept because we weren't there yet. And so I really encourage the folks that I'm working with to get in that space where you're ready. Can you talk about how to improve processes and reduce waste? Because one thing that I know for sure, and this is something that I've had to actually convince my bosses over time by showing them literally, oh, you want to spend more on a housekeeping contract? I don't think so. Well, I'll be $1 million ahead on my budget. Right now I'm $600,000 ahead. Well, how does that happen? And then you end up being the one on the CapEx calls speaking about how you manage, sorry, my things are falling off, how you managed to save that money. And it wasn't by going and finding a cheaper housekeeping vendor or a janitorial vendor. It was by all of the programs together will naturally save you money, because that's what lean methodology is about, or any other intelligent system of not waste. And you measure constantly. You measure if your kids are potty training, you measure that process. If you're teaching your dog, you're measuring that process. You're measuring everything. You're measuring how often you're putting gas and oil and how far your car will go. So even if it's not scribed on a record, you know these things inherently. Measure your business and know your business. Be able to break it apart. Coach yesterday talked about this, knowing each facet of your business and understanding. And the way to start with that is to have every role in the place scribed. And just like a SOP, someone said, hey, come in and write a standard operating process for me. You're going to start there. You're going to start with what's the job and how does it get done and what do they do in a day, and so what's our ROI on that? And then you begin to find your waste that way. So that would be my advice, is know your business intimately, or understand old-fashioned or long-lived processes like lean methodologies to be a perfectionist in your business. Because there's a lot of places, almost every either retail store I took over, I became pretty well known for taking where I'd end up getting the worst of the worst and having to flip them for them or improve them because of this natural skill to break this down in this way. And almost always there's an instant 30% improvement. Almost always. I can almost guarantee any business that I'm supporting or that I'm going into, I will show easily within a quarter, but usually within a month, a 20, 30, 40% improvement. There's always about a 30% waste in every business that I approach.
What's up, Profitable Cleaner listeners? Quick question for you. Are you using 5 to 7 different platforms just to manage the everyday operations of your commercial cleaning company? If so, let us help you consolidate that into one platform. Introducing you uSource. Go to usource.com, book your free demo today, and actually get started on your trial for 60 days. No charge for 60 days, all from time and attendance to reporting, vendor management, operations, sales. It's time you stop using 5 to 7 platforms and consolidate into one. So listeners, don't forget, go to usource.com and start your account today. You're very impressive.
Well, you would say the same, because if you were to come and say, hey, I'm going to start working on your house for you, you'd say, oh, my God, as neat as she is, I still found 10 things I could do better for her. 100%. So there's no question that new eyes and new attitude and a thought process work.
But do you have a Six Sigma certification?
Yes.
What belt?
Green belt.
green belt. What's the highest? Is
Black.
that the black belt? Are you planning on going back?
You know, I was green belt at my time, in my day, was 12 grand, and the black was about 20. And
They're still pricey right now. Huh?
Well, you know, they're getting better. You can get a yellow and green for under $500 now online.
Really?
Thank God
Really?
for the computer process, you know, and online.
That
So
makes sense.
You
That
can.
makes
They're
sense. I think the
more
black was
available
like
now.
8, no? Because it's still
Yes,
pretty
maybe now.
pricey.
And when I got mine about 15, 20 years ago, it was about, I learned how to write grants, because in ISO, in order to do business, like I said earlier, you have to pay someone to come audit you. They want to know that you are following good business practices. And a good business practice does include things like, am I tracking my assets and how much downtime so that I know when I need to replace one? Well, that's just good business. It's not a miracle. It's not like, oh my God, but good business is not to keep putting money into a car that doesn't run. You would do that as well. So in the process of adopting or understanding, really all you're doing is looking for waste and moving it out. And the way you look for waste is by recording data, because data shows you something you can't see with your eyes.
Man,
That line right there is actually very underrated. The crazy part about this podcast is we haven't even dove in deep into process. We haven't done it. We kept it so high level, but it's already been so fruitful. You know, it's funny about Six Sigma, or how I knew the belt and all that. Because I was in college. I was in marketing, in the American Marketing Association. I was the president, and there was an association called APIX. Do you know APIX? Mm-hmm. It's like Association for Process Improvement and whatever. And they had a competition hosted by Six Sigma for the university, and they would go to different areas, Texas, and then if you won Texas, you got to go to Vegas, and then you compete internationally. Well, there's a part of it that you got to turn the operations into money and present it. So they actually got me from the other association I joined just to go compete, and we made it all the way to Vegas. I was 20 years old, unfortunately, so I couldn't do anything in Vegas, but we competed against like Italy and Spain and China, and there were simulations, and you had to like fix your budgets and quantity. It was very intense. Apex.
Did you learn a lot?
So I was just a member because I was like, I can speak from stage and I can put a marketing plan together. But I ended up falling in love. I think that started triggering the little like operations brain behind it. And we started learning Kaizen and doing all these things. And I'm like, oh my God. So now as I'm hearing you, I'm like, kind of just want to dive into operations again.
Well, they do go very well together. I recently got a job offer for ops management. I said, no, thanks. I have the best job in the world. I'm never going back to operations management. But it does pay to know. It does pay to be aware. And I'm sure you learned a lot with that exercise.
Oh, yeah. Now I kind of just want to dive into it. Let me ask you a question. So when they bring you, let's talk about this. You said something very cool, which was whenever a company is doing a lot of waste, whenever the warehouse it was just in shambles. Mm-hmm. I have a friend that they bring him for financial shambles of a business. So if they're about to die out, they bring him in. He audits everyone, everything, every vendor, process, and just eats it up. You're right, it takes about a quarter, but they're just going, and then they're like, yep, find the money here, structure this, move this, gotta let go of this vendor, but we're gonna hire this type of it. Like they just boom, boom, boom. And it sounds like you do that when it's a wasteful warehouse or location. What's your process like when you have to, I call it clean house, but I don't, that's just a random term. What's your process like? How do you go in there? You go, this is broken. Mm-hmm. Time to fix it. I have 90 days to fix it, which 90 days is not as much time as people think. 30 days, usually you start seeing the impact. What's your process like?
I look at the things that are most impactful first. My job is business continuity. I cannot allow the business to slow down. So I look for what impacts them and listening, being on the floor. I actually, when I was young and all hyper all the time, I went in and immediately started making changes, and I learned over time to pay attention first and then make changes. So now I go in and I observe, listen, talk to folks, survey. A lot of people don't like to ask that question because they don't want the answers. They don't want to have to go solve a problem that wasn't on their plate before just because you asked a question that And it could be something as rogue as I don't like the snacks you're providing, or it could be something as important as your toilet paper is too rough, or it could be anything. Or my station doesn't feel clean and whatnot. But it doesn't matter what it is. I ask all the time. I ask the hard questions, and I ask the vendor all the time. Are you successful? Are you having good luck? What's working for you? What can I do to help you grow your business? Can I refer you? And I certainly do that, and make sure that they see an intentional effort towards their betterment as well. It's not a one-way street. And when you treat it like a one-way street, that's why you're not doing very good business, because it's not.
And so I go in there and you start asking the surveys, you start seeing how do you identify what's most important? Is it what's most important to you? Is it what's most important to the company as a whole for that warehouse? Like, do you have your priorities checked before you even head over?
Well, there's only there's a finite number of things that we address. So the 4 walls, everything within it, and in my case, it was supply and that type of piece as well. But you can have any number of scope. You could just be over vendor management, which is forklift repair person, or you can be over a greater scope, all the facilities or the buying or the contract development or warehouse opening. So it just depends on what your gumption is. I pretty much forced my way into all those things, and I was lucky to have great leaders that would accommodate the desire. So if I had a desire to teach or grow, my leader would say, hey, I've got a gal that's going to come help you open, and then I actually helped write the store opening or the warehouse opening protocol. So that was a beautiful thing to get to be involved in something like that. And I learned so much when I participate or when I volunteer. So I actually ask for stretch projects all the time in order to become more educated.
What did you call them?
Stretch projects that aren't really in my scope, but that I'm happy to help with. So I'll approach the engineering team, because every warehouse has an engineering team, and I'll always talk to them about, hey, let me do your major purchases, because they do the multi-site purchases, the multi-million, and I say, I can save you 20% right off the bat. Let me do your quote out on your next major project. So if they're restructuring let's see, all the workbenches, and they're putting something ergonomical on there, I'll do that for them so that I can not only help the company as a whole. The desire is as a whole, isn't it? It's not just my job. I love the whole company, and that company's either going to be able to give me a raise next year, or they're not, because I helped them save money or because I helped them do better business where clients wanted to come back to them. So it's the whole pie, and I love doing stretch projects. I love stretching my mind, and I like impacting things. I like helping people, and some people feel that sort of weak that I'm in service and I'm so giving. I spend time every morning teaching my team things that have nothing to do with their job, how to use, because we know minorities and folks in these industries are underrepresented in the wealth building concepts in the world. They don't own houses, 401ks, they don't invest, they don't understand what pre-tax looks like on their paycheck. So I spend a lot of time teaching my teams, and then the other teams start to hear, and they wander over and say, hey, I heard you help her set up a 401k, and she made an extra $1,500 because the company contributes. So everybody should be involved in something where free money's involved, right? But they just don't understand it. So that's my investment to them, and that is my investment as well to the vendors that I work with, is what can I do to improve your game or to help you have a better game. If you're willing to help me look great to my bosses, which is important to me, I'm willing to do what I can to help you as well look great to your bosses.
Imagine over 300 cleaning executives, all under one roof, ready to connect, collaborate, and build a community. Join your hosts, James Harper and Angel Sandoval, 11 keynote speakers and 8 expert panelists sharing the blueprint to scale your life and business. Head over to event.cleaningprophets.com for all the details. For being listeners, use code CEO30 for a 30% discount. See you there.
I think you just said a few really important things there that I want listeners to pick up on. You said help you look important to your bosses. Mm-hmm. We always say make your customer the superhero of the story. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that's what I think good companies or vendors, let's call them in this case, do. They make you look great to your bosses, and in return, that is honored through the relationship with the vendor. But also just for your emphasis on people, and outside of just like, hey, here's a process, here's what we implement. It's like, no, actually having empathy for the people and for the demographic of the person you're working with, whether that's mindset, whether that's financial. Like, I want everyone hearing this, that like that transcends in everything you do. We've had leadership coaches on here talk about it. We've had sales mindset people on here talk about it, marriage counselors, and now someone like you guys are all at the end of the day saying the same thing. It's like, invest in your people outside of just what the job is, and actually give a shit, and then watch how that grows. I do have a very specific question going back to kind of janitorial and that vendor approach. If someone's listening to this because you've given so much value, they're like, I want this style of relationship with a Karen. I want to get into warehouses. I don't even know how to get educated. I don't know.
How do I up-level myself to be able to meet the expectations of Miss McWaters?
This is their first exposure to someone with Karen's expertise, and this is their first educational insight. Now what? Like, what would you give like a Raquel 20 years ago, just getting in the industry? What?
Or a lot of the people you've met already, right?
Yeah,
like, how can they up-level themselves to excellence?
Don't we tend to internalize the negative, the no's? We tend, they don't want to meet with me. They don't like me. They don't care about this. This isn't important to them. And that's not really the case. Most people are just buried. They don't know how to manage their day. They're not good time managers. And you can see that in the evidence. Either they're tardy where they go, or they're unable to make the meetings, or they're unable to be present when they need to be with their team because they're always behind. That starts to, in fact, right now I can start feeling my heart beat fast, because what that does is it not only sends a message to your team and tells them that they're not a priority over whatever all else is, but also that you don't know how to make time or manage time, and you don't know how to set priorities. So that becomes important too. It concerns me that janitorial vendors don't spend a lot of time on property with their teams. I'm always surprised by that. Not only building the relationship, because who wants to turn that job over, but it's a nasty job. So make it better by loving them. Like I was saying earlier, even though they're probably a little bit above the market rate, the janitorial teams that Raquel and I have worked with, but we have no turnover, none. People are waiting, and if one does happen to leave because they got a better opportunity, I still get calls back, she and I both, from that one person that left, because looking back going, oh, no one ever cared enough to sit and buy me lunch and to ask me what gets in the way of getting the job done. And to your question earlier, when we're looking for what's important, besides business continuity, what's important is anything that makes the job difficult. So if you're my customer, and we undervalue the internal customer, the associate, they get paid. I have to deal with their problems, or they don't come to work, or I've got to deal with their situations or their underperformance. So we get this mindset that they are indebted to us somehow. But when we turn the tables and we really try to excel at serving that customer, life gets better. I looked up when I was getting ready to come here, how many, if there was any data or, world theory on how a clean facility actually improves profits. And there was 100 obvious statements, like, of course it does, it feels better. There's less theft. There's less distaste. There's less
increase in productivity.
Yeah. So there's so many ways. But over time, and even creating, like, I need to add a porter, but I won't drive your budget up because you'll see the outcome in this, or I want to move away from so many hands-on, and I want to hire a company to do it. So any of those things take you being able to speak with knowledge to your boss and make the point that it's a doable thing or possible, and it's going to make him look good. So I'm very verbal and very articulate with my bosses and my vendors of what my end game is. My end game is for you not to ever have to worry about anything. You're not the one coming up here at midnight. I am if something goes wrong. Nor are you the one that's sitting at the guard desk if they don't show up. I'm going to take care. You're never going to know there's a problem in your warehouse. So I would take that approach as any vendor anywhere, that my job is to make you, as we talked about earlier, your job seamless. And you don't hear about it until late in the game. So as one of the places I was working was closing down, they started talking about it, because I went ahead and left. They offered a significant severance to stay, but I felt like the income level that I'm at, I needed to get ahead of that and go find the next job. But I got so much positive feedback in that week and the subsequent weeks and offers after that to, I'm looking around and seeing all that you impacted, and now I feel like I'm missing something. So can we reconnect? And I think that's, the silent, beautiful thing. They don't even know how great they had it till they go somewhere else and see the bathrooms aren't clean, or that and even for me, aesthetics matter. So everywhere I go, I see everything. And that's kind of a burden too, because every little thing I can tell you, gosh, the window seals aren't clean, or there's cobwebs, so I have that burden as well now that I have a discerning eye. It doesn't matter what it is, but I have that discerning eye now. And so it's surprising sometimes that people that aren't intimate enough with their own business and their own employees to have driven them to that higher level.
Damn.
What
that line right there.
Yeah, that last line. Not intimate enough with their
They just
own
don't
business
get to know
drive
them.
their.
I got a girl on that contract that someone brought me. I don't even know her last name, or I don't even know what her needs are. And lots of times, as you've read 1,000,000 times, it isn't necessarily about pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
If everything's about pay, sorry, just to close that point, a lot of companies, like in our community, in other communities, they always can't get good workers because they're asking for X amount of pay. They're asking all this, and you always get that one client that has great retention. That's nah, they just don't want to work for you.
That's right.
Yeah,
there's a difference. And now, what you just said right there, oh my God, I'm confronted about my businesses right now, even though I feel like we do a pretty decent job, but it's they're not intimate enough with their business to drive their people to excellence. That's a hell of a quote. So if your people are not, someone asked us on those community questions, how do I build or create team leaders to have the same values and the same vision? And we had different responses to that. But what you just said right there is how. You become so intimate with both your people, but the business. Understand your business so much that there's no choice but excellence. And I'm thinking of mentors that we have. They're so intimate with what they do that that's why they run at the pace that they run, and they're respected the way they're respected. Very interesting.
And even on the podcast that
Wow.
I've had, you hear that over and over again. As I listen to y'all's podcast, I hear that theme over and over. The people that understand, but I also know that there's not a lot of us. So it's if I could just share that, it's not hard. It's not hard to break it down. And I already gave you the first rule to breaking it down. Scribe the role. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. And then once you scribe the role, you can see, that part isn't needed. Or, I love the little Post-it program where you stick the Post-it on the wall of every step of a process. And then you decide which are valuable to the customer and which are valuable to the business. And you decide which you can eliminate. And you'll always find something you can eliminate in there. So that's how the savings come. And I don't even target, oh my God, I'm going to go save them $1 million. But everywhere I've ever worked, I've made my salary 10 times over within the first 6 months. And that is I might be buying from a major company. Yeah, I might be buying from a major company, but no one's looked at the buy list in a long time. So if a guy comes by and says, hey, you called and I'm your account manager for this massive company everybody buys from, and I'll say, here's my top 100 buys. First of all, tell me where I stand in your client rank. I always ask that question. I want to know. Because if I'm in the top 20, that gives me leverage. That gives me a little bit of, okay, I can really speak to some great things I need here. Almost always, as soon as you start talking, they go, I can get you some price reductions, because they already know that part of the business has been underserved, that no one's looked at it, and they know they have the right, or that I have the right to have a 10% discount if I buy $1 million worth of this. They know this, and they know I could go shop it out for a 20% discount. So they instantly, lots of times, here will come back. Or even if you're asking your trash provider, how much of my waste is going to the landfill, or how much and what am I getting for cardboard? I'll get a note back that says, we just decided we're going to up your cardboard rate. Okay, because they knew exactly what was coming. They knew that conversation had been underserved because no one knew that part of the business to have that conversation. And I'm getting $100,000 a year in rebates. So that, even if it was 20, it would matter to me, but $100,000 in cardboard rebates, I want to get, if the market rate's 20 cents, I want that. If you're still paying 10 because the last guy never looked at it, Yeah, we're going to do, and they don't even hesitate. They know, and they want to do business with you, and they want to be good. So as soon as you act like you care, they start coming forward, and that's how the millions get saved. Even though I may pay more on a janitorial contract.
That's business intimacy
What?
one-on-one right there.
That's a
So,
masterpiece right there, though.
How good do you know your business? Are you just not
Your vendors.
Your
Oh my
vendors, and
God.
you also just kind of, when you were talking there, like, there's a lot of art of negotiation going on.
Absolutely.
And how, like,
with insight though.
Yeah,
Because
with
like I've
insight.
caught myself negotiating, and it's like, what? I don't have any data to back
well,
it
you're
up.
just your negotiation. A lot of times we negotiate off of feel, and that's hard to do. In marketing, I always just say you can't manage what you can't measure. And when you're talking,
That's exactly.
I hear like that phrase just coming through, although you haven't said those words.
No, that's exactly right.
And you take that data and that measurement of whatever. How do you manage it better? And then you go to your vendors, you go to your suppliers, you go to whoever, and say, can we improve process? Not cut business.
Yeah.
But can we improve? Oh, I get $100,000 back on cardboard rebates, whatever the hell that is, and but you just increased your budget by $100,000 by having the data, knowing your business, and having a conversation.
Well,
And
and
saving
you
the
know,
world.
it's funny.
Yeah.
You
Get it out
know
of the
what
way.
you're doing too, because like you said, you reach out to the vendor, and they know just by a question. We're dealing with
Something
that kind of
different,
client,
yes.
and I think a lot of people don't do that. They try to be too,
Copy paste.
no, to relaxing. It's like, for example, me and you know tech, we know software. We've had clients that are in weird situations with another marketing agency, and they can't get out. They can't do this, and then we're like, just put us on a call. And we put us on a call and we start asking questions. And then as soon as we start asking, they're like, oh, okay. They know it like that.
Yeah.
And then in 24 hours, we'll get people out of a
problem
bank,
solved.
right? It's like, but because we know that industry so deep that it's like, that's not true. You know that this is true. This is true. So it's cool that you said, hey, what part of your client, what percentage, part of your client rank, where am I?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're top 10.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Quick question, where does my land, like that?
Now I have
love-
leverage.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
you're just
Now I
asking
have
questions.
leverage.
You're not even like, I need a discount now. You're just like, hey, coming in. Nice to meet y'all.
I'm like curious.
Here's
like,
my questions. And then they automatically like, no, it's coming. Let's just get ahead. They want to get ahead of it
Sure.
because if they get ahead of it, it was their idea and it's their customer service instead of you complaining or you bringing it up. It's like, and then now you're like, oh, so thank you so much. You're so considerate. Now you won my business again. But it's like this tangle.
Yes.
But you only know that because of the knowledge that you've researched. And
There's I'm wondering
That's
too,
awesome.
like if you're listening to this, like, and you do have a really good sized contract with a facility or an office building, like, and you know what your contract is. Do you know what that actually is for the facility's budget? Like, I bet you a lot of people don't. Like, I mean, even our businesses, like, I don't know what our line item is to our client's overall budget, and we probably should know that.
Action item right there.
Yeah, so just questions to be
Ed
asked.
Selco says that a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, it's because we always provide so great value and blah, blah. And then he always responds in those comments and he's like, don't forget what part of the P&L you're at. Don't forget what part of the balance sheet. You're not in the income, or at least not right now, you're not in the income generating activity.
Yeah,
You're a cost.
you're in the expense.
Well,
So you
Since
got to
you are a
understand you're an
cost.
expense. But then, like you said it, you're a cost now.
Yeah.
But if you're like, you know who did that? Joseph Lockhart in his podcast. He's actually here in Dallas. I'll love to introduce him to you. He did that with his company. He was trying to win these big warehouses, and they gave him the budget. And he's like, oh, man. And he's like, but quick question. I see that you guys put a plan together, and you guys are going to replace your HVAC systems. You've only had them for like 3-4 years or something like that. And he's like,
Have they
they're like, yeah, we're not. They're not producing, blah, blah. And he's like, I can help with that. And so they're like, they audited the whole HVAC system. They ended up not having to replace it because they just cleaned them, maintained them. And he's like, and now we prolong their maintenance costs. He's like, now that goes into my janitorial.
Yeah.
It was a win-win for everybody. So
Paid for
it's
himself.
Saved him
he did a whole
$250,000.
article on it. It was beautiful. It was a great article. We got him on the podcast after we read the article because I was like, people don't think like that. And so hearing you, that's I don't know.
So,
A master.
So I want to go back to a question that I asked a little bit earlier, and you were going in and giving great insight, like once you are a vendor, and kind of how to continue to develop. If someone's listening to this and they don't work with a Karen, they don't work with a warehouse, they don't have an industrial complex, but they're like, I just want to keep educating myself. I know there's IFMA, BOMA, like all these other organizations. Is there any places you would point someone to in the janitorial space, maybe just to become part of or learn more?
I have absolutely heard of nothing that intertwines, and that's the case with most business. Most people are not in the space, and in fact, it's almost a little lonely to have to always be explaining what lean is to my bosses or to the folks that I work with, because it's such a natural process. They do it naturally in measuring. To your point, one of the companies I work for felt like measuring was impolite because it would create competition or everybody couldn't be a winner and all of that. So,
Oh my God.
yes,
what's
and me,
going on?
that was mind-blowing because you measure everything, every single thing you measure. You just don't realize you do. But how can you improve what you don't know? And you said that. I mean, how can you improve what you're not, what you have no awareness of? So if you want to improve without any effort at all, measure, and that improvement will come by observation, right? Haven't we learned that in science when we look at, now scientists aren't allowed to look at their own experiments anymore after that double slit theory or whatever went on. They learned that atoms move and wave because when you're observing them, they behave differently than when you're not observing them. So in this case, it's exactly the same thing, isn't it? I mean, think about it. It is exactly the same thing. If you're observing your team, they're going to work harder. That doesn't mean they were goofing off before or they weren't a value add, but that day I'm going to work harder. If I know my bosses are coming, I may keep a beautiful space, but I'm so proud of it that day I'm going to have Raquel come in and do a little extra for me, you know, and I'm going to watch my break room aesthetics. I notice even in places where this is paramount, they just don't do it enough. I started in the hotel industry early on, so I became heightened aware of not only janitorial, but also of aesthetics and visuals and how things are laid out. And so there isn't even enough attention in anyone's environment at all to the visual. Is there a piece of paper that's been laying in the corner, or somebody left a cup over there 6 months ago and it's still sitting there? So that is completely off of most people's radar. If you get to that point, because you have the time, because these processes that we're talking about, learning, these don't take more time. That's why people don't do them. They think they take more. They actually take less. At front, yes, it's hard because you've got to level set and you've got to understand the SLAs and you have to read through the contracts and understand and make the relationship. But in time, the end goal isn't it to be seamless. I don't even have to see Raquel anymore because I know my service is exactly what it's going to look like, exactly what it's going to be, and we can go from there. And that really is the case with all of the vendors that I've adopted and love and work with regularly.
Hey, what's up, guys? Today's episode is brought to you by Cinch. If you're ready to take your commercial cleaning business to the next level, we have you covered. Maybe you're struggling with how to bid, how to create professional-looking proposals, or just how to ensure your customers' accounts are actually being cleaned at night. Introducing Cinch Janitorial software. Cinch is a simple, user-friendly software that eliminates these types of struggles that you probably know all too well. Cinch simplifies your entire process and will supercharge your success because they remove paperwork headaches while creating a scalable, efficient, and profitable cleaning business. Get your free demo of Cinch at cleancinch.com. They're here to turn your business into a success story. That's cleancinch, CINCH.com. It's simple, it's Cinch. How do you, I just want to sit here and listen.
I wish I had a notebook. That's twice
really
already. I wish I had a notebook.
I mean, when we talk about principled leadership or principle-centered leadership, that's what it is, isn't it? Isn't it in principle to do your best? Isn't it in principle to treat people in the best possible way?
Yeah.
And aren't you going to win? I mean, in my world, if we snow skied more, we got better at it. Or if we played more soccer, we got better at it. So practice makes perfect. So you get better at every single thing. Everything improves as you observe it. And so observation changes the outcome. So, that's all you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you were going to kind of where my question was, that it's all about improvement, right? So like, let's say you put a plan in place. Maybe it's a preventative maintenance plan, janitorial. I don't care what plan. Just someone with your management background. How often are you? And like, let's say it is a seamless relationship. How often are you reviewing and tweaking, or are you just setting them for?
That's a great question. I'm observing all the time. They're in a moment now. A lot of stuff I just. And that's another thing I don't do. I notice because when I put Raquel in other buildings where I wasn't all the time, there were struggles. There were people, one, that tried to manage her team for her. You have to learn you don't manage your vendors. They manage them. That's a legal issue. So, and don't let people manage your team. You're not going to manage my team. I am very good at what I do, and I have a system and a program that yields the best outcome. That's always the case, isn't it? Yielding the greatest outcome for everyone. And so you, in your maybe rudimentary style of leadership, comes up and be unkind to one of my associates because you don't like something. I'm going to very kindly and gently guide you away and allow me to do these things because I have a formula for it that works, that makes them better for you. And most people aren't well versed in how to get the best outcome. Screaming at anyone is not how you get the best outcome, is it? How's their day going to go after that? Are you going to have the best service you ever got after you just peeled into somebody? No. So, and I see that a lot. And she would call me from time to time and say, one, I can't get in to see this person, so I'd tap them and I'd just say, hey, the housekeeping vendor is ready to do their service level agreement meeting with you. Can I book a time for you? So she was also knew not to just let it go and not let it be just because that manager wasn't ready. That's an immature manager, right? So she's leading him along. She's teaching him how to be a better manager because he hasn't come to the space yet to understand the value because she's already there. She knows the importance of knowing her customer and knowing that means she's probably not going to get replaced in that unit. So she has to help some of them come to the same space, and that's just a process. Everyone's in a different space in their skill set. But something that you asked earlier about what becomes important, and besides continuity of business, what becomes important is what does your customer want from you? So we know my customer is the 1,000 folks, most of them under 25, the 20 to 30-year-olds in my space. And why do I care if they don't like my toilet paper or the soap or whatever? I listen to every single complaint. 1,000 people have a lot of petty complaints, but I listen to them. And I pay attention. And if it's an easy fix, this is something else I wanted to add to their position. Speak on what you do. There's so many great things they do that they don't approach and speak on. So you could say, oh, this week I put out a different kind of snack because so-and-so wanted something healthier. It can just happen, and that's wonderful too. I love to do that for my bosses. Here's your salad you asked for, and they're just on their desk because they know, but most of the time people don't know. So you speak to that. Hey, I was able to bring in these things that you asked for. Or, hey, I noticed while I was cleaning, I noticed the area over there that we normally don't clean was in bad shape, but I want you to know I went ahead and swept that up for you because I knew you said you had some bosses coming. So there's not enough conversation that goes on to make people aware of what you're doing to make their life better. And I think then more of that, maybe it sounds like bragging is why. And we all try to avoid that or anything that shows that our egos may be in play, but there's absolutely no reason not to tell me over and over again how great you are as a leader and how that's impacting me in a positive way.
Well, it's like reinforcing what you're doing.
Well, I think I 100% agree, but I don't even know if it's reinforcing. It's just like they don't even know.
Yeah, you're giving visibility.
There you go. That's what I was thinking.
Visibility to value.
So I meet with a lot of cleaning companies, like through all of our companies, right? I speak a lot. That's who I speak with all the time. And usually when they speak about the buildings that they're cleaning, they're like, oh, okay, so I use an inspection tool, for example, just in case the client asks or there's an issue, then I have protection. Okay, makes sense. I can't argue that. But that's protection. That's when things go bad, I will have proof that I did good. Versus when whatever we do, including what we do great that was outside the corp, let me show you. It's very interesting because now I'm thinking a lot of people use support tickets or issues, right? And they'll communicate it with the team. They'll get it done and they'll let the client know, hey, issue fixed. I wonder how many of them do it backwards. I wonder how many of them go,
most.
Hey, just letting you know, completely out of our scope, not an issue actually, But we did, and you did tell us your executives were coming. So like you said, we just did an extra sweeping and high dusting just in case. Sends it in. I don't think a lot of people put themselves there because of what you said, the visibility. What if I give them too much and now they're checking too much? What if there's always like this weird play that they're playing, right? Which is like everybody just do their job and don't talk. I hear that a lot. We just check in once in a while and then we'll talk when it's time to renew contracts. And your supervisors and building leads are the ones building the relationship.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that you're like, actually, go backwards. And I think I'm definitely learning a lot about my business, which is not even a cleaning business.
No news is good news. It's like
no news is good news. Exactly. No news is no news. Good news is good news, right? Like you said, like a nice little. It does sound braggy, but it doesn't when it's written in the right format.
Exactly.
Where it's like, hey, just want to let you know we're taking care of you.
It's just visibility.
No need to reply to this email. Just want to say you're all set.
Yes.
Like something like that, and they're like, oh, thanks. And it'll stay in the back of your head. It'll stay in their brain. I wonder how reactive versus proactive.
That's right. I think that's what it comes down to. You're being proactive in that sense. And it's just reassuring, like, hey, we got your back. We're doing this. And you started off in the first 5 minutes of this podcast. What's the difference with vendors? You said accommodation. They're like Raquel's always been able to accommodate. She goes to a different country and brings back these PPE for you. Like, that's accommodation. Now, that's a large example, but I'm sure you have vendors with a ton of small examples of accommodation, and especially if it's not asked, right? And it's not prompted by you.
What are some of those examples? I'm just very curious. Like, what are the smallest things that maybe seem irrelevant to one? Like, I would be like, whatever, but that to you are like, that was very, very nice.
My pest control guy, every time he comes on property, he pings me, texts me, I'm here if you need me. I usually don't, but that's a very nice service that all my other pest companies never did before. So I could talk to him about a little ant pile or a little, where someone saw one roach in 1 million square feet. I can talk to him about that, and he can go take care of it. So that's the type of thing that's a little bit above and beyond, and I love him. I had to take him to my next place. And
I had to.
Do you even text back? Or if you don't need him, you don't text back? You're like...
Sometimes not usually. Yeah, he knows. And he'll usually find me one, it's a pretty big space, but he has to walk the whole space. And so he'll usually find me and end up saying, hey, this is what I saw, or this is what I did. I didn't see any activity. But he knows I want the rundown. And if not, he'll email it or text it to me, of course, anyway. But he knows that all data is important to me, and so if I have a lot of mouses end up in the 10 cats outside, I may want to take a second action. Or if he found a lot of ants because it's rainy season, or the people get freaked out when it's moth season, or all those other weird animals that just inundate our parking lot, cricket season or June bug season.
I have a question. Did you have one loaded ready?
No, go for it.
Okay, because
I think we're about to ask the same thing.
Maybe. We'll see. I have a client that told me, or I think we interviewed somebody on a podcast once that said, the facility manager really doesn't want to be bothered by you. The least they hear from you, the better. Because that can assume that means everything in their building is going good. So let's say I'm a contractor of every pest control, anything, and I get that type of facility manager. I was like, hey man, listen, just don't bother me. Mm-hmm. Is it my right? Is it my right? What do you call it when?
Obligation.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
$100 for obligation. Is it my obligation to say, hey, appreciate that, but here's how we do things?
Yes. It's very important for me to know. For you to know I haven't forgotten about you, even if you're busy. It's very important for me to fulfill my contract obligation, because in all contracts there's a service level agreement, and it usually says you'll be out once a month, and they'll use that against you when they decide to. That's the unfortunate part, because people that aren't open in communication generally aren't also open in that level of integrity. In other words, I'm going to take care of you the way you take care of me. It's, in a lot of cases, it is a one-way street, but you can change that. You can be the person that makes that a different relationship, makes that a different type of business. A concierge is what I tell Raquel. You offer a concierge service.
Yeah, that's so good.
You're right, though, because if they think that... So everything that now the whole podcast is like coming in, like, know your worth. Because if I know my worth, right, then if someone tells me, like in my business, like, no, that's not how I do it, you answered to me, I go, no, I don't. This is how we both do business.
Yes.
You have yours, I have mine. We're gonna find a middle ground. But I gotta, because you're right. If they ever come down to them and they say the building, I just saw this and it was dirty, and it's a high level executive, they're coming down at you.
Yes,
and if you haven't created the systems to protect your company and be proactive, the reaction is much, much more worse. Yeah. And they'll use. You're right. You're right. They will use that agreement and be like, well, I know I don't like bothered, but in this service level agreement, it says you should be here once a month, and I don't remember the last time you were here once a month. Yeah. Oh, you told me not to bother you. But in your service, once that something is signed, like we've been learning that a lot, like everything written is so, they'll hold you to it.
Well, and it's always the dirty game when you're at that space, when you're looking at that, and nobody plays fair in that space.
That's right, 100%.
That's what.
Yeah, 100%.
So you gotta protect yourself.
Their integrity isn't there for me. I'll take the lick first every time because it is my fault. No matter what it is, it's my fault. I should have seen it. I should have known. Even accidents, all I can say to that is I'm going to do something to stop that. So everything that happens in my world, there's the immediate correction, which everyone does because you have no choice. But then the very next step for me in my mind has always been, how do I avoid ever doing that again? So over time, I literally do end up with less and less problems than the average person and more time on my hand to do the relationship development because I master the ability to, or I master the concept of solving problems in real time. In other words, make that one go away, whatever that takes. So,
are you just
oh my God.
Yeah,
that line was.
I know. So I'm just thinking your world. There's immediate correction, like you said, because everyone has to do it. And then you're thinking long term on how to avoid it. Are you just like tweaking processes and rolling it out? So,
for me, because I already know the process. If you don't, that's the hard part where you can't make an improvement, a simple improvement, because you don't even understand the process. So fundamentally, to be successful, and you will naturally be successful, you will not go the wrong way. That doesn't mean sales aren't going to slow down or you don't have to be good strategists, but your business will naturally improve if you do these things. If you know it, understand it, are able to speak to it and what the value is in each step and know the value in each person, because you may not know, and we just don't know what everybody does. We don't know everything until we look at it in that way.
So how often are you tweaking and reviewing those like processes?
Never ends. That's your whole job.
And I think that comes from the more I hear you, I'm like, I need to go get certified on Six Sigma, because that is Six Sigma and lean methodology, continuous improvement. Isn't that Kaizen too?
It is all of that. Yes, Kaizen. All those are methodologies that have the same outcome, right? Improve the business, improve your profit, improve your service, because all of those work together. And a lot of companies don't pay attention. You know, like even though it's none of my business, this last job that I got, in all interviews with all the VPs that I had to go, usually it's 2 or 3, I said, I'm looking for a job where I can work outside my scope. So I want to intertwine with your ops team and help them, because I've sat back too many times and watched the op teams suffer when I could have brought value to them, but I wasn't allowed to help because it wasn't in my scope. So on my last interview, I said, I will be involved in ops at this level. So it depends on where you take that position. You can just be the guy that can fix something and handles the vendors as they flow through, or you can be the guy that that gets in there and says, hey, I see you shipped 1 million products last week after a Super Bowl game or something, and I saw it was tough on you guys, and I think I can help you with that. So move that under my scope, because really it is in my scope, isn't it? Improving the lifestyle inside the building. So if you had a tough time getting something done, I want to participate. So I've learned now I have to add that to any job scope that I have. I have to ask or to let them know up front. I can't take a job where I can't partner and participate, because I'm then observing and I'm brokenhearted, because I know what I'm looking at, and I know it's not right for the customer or the employee or anyone. It just isn't a good process if they're not in that state of mind.
Hey, are you ready to challenge yourself? Mark your calendars for the event of the year, the Cleaning Prophets Takeover Edition, happening in Denver, Colorado from September 24 to 26. Head over to event.cleaningprofits.com for all the details. For being listeners, use code CEO30 for a 30% discount. See you there.
Any company that doesn't hire you to be part of
I'm
the
sorry.
operation
I don't have
is not the
trouble
company
finding jobs.
for you. No, of course not. But
Because you
Should be
can
a
speak to this.
millionaire. I'm
I mean, when
just,
you speak
very
to this,
confused right
I
now.
do struggle independently working though. I mean, I have such an in-service mindset that when I got laid off, sitting at home a month about killed me, because how can I help somebody? What can I do? I don't have a lot of value sitting here. I don't like to watch the TV all day. So
you need a. Oh my God. I'm like, my whole business, I'm questioning everything in a beautiful way. You said a lot of great things. There's certain people that come in this podcast that just fuel you to a different level. And you're one of those people. Like, I feel freaking fueled. But I also feel that you can get a vendor that comes that maybe isn't even fueled for their business. Like, they don't love it because life is life. Not because they don't want to love it, but because life is life. They don't know what they don't know. Like, you were talking to the girls, and you're like, what are your KPIs? What are your ops? And then now their brain starts going. That's, like, I just want to tell it to the audience. Like, if you have a facility manager that deep down, they're like, man, I know you kid. They've been in their position for 20 years or whatever, and you love them, like, lead by example through these conversations. It's like, hey, man, let's grab coffee. Let's talk about how do you, I always tell, I used to say,
this episode.
I'm like, I know, right? Send them this episode and get inspired. Send them Miss McWaters and get them. No, but I was saying, like, do you know your facility managers or your vendors' bonus structure? Not that you have to tell them like everything, but it's like, yo, how do you get measured? How do you make money?
Yeah.
Oh, I make money this. Yeah. Oh, so if I help you make this, mm-hmm. you what would you do with that money? People are not down to have those conversations, but it's like, imagine your vendor was like, oh man, I have one goal, get you to those bonuses.
Dude, that's
how we're gonna do them. Of course, I'm gonna clean, but me and you gotta figure out these. Remember, we used to train. That's what we used to do a lot.
Actually, so you just brought up a great point. So again, I'm gonna reference my wife because it's firsthand experience. She implemented a very specific and robust work order management process. But so she doesn't have bonuses, but she gets annual reviews, which is attached to percentage of raise, right? So call that the bonus. And she knew that this was such a big investment for the university that, hey, and no other department was using it correctly. I'm going to get all my vendors to be trained on Maximo better than anybody. And she got a 15% raise because of it. And in the university world, it's like unheard of. Right? Just because, you're right, she went to her vendors and was like, we're going to do this. And they all bought in because...
Why would you not want to buy in? But it's just like, most people don't even get the invitation.
And it made
that's the catch. It's like, most people don't invite others to your motive, what you're putting towards, or you're not down to say, hey, let me challenge you, James. What are your bonuses? We're moving. We're moving. I got business. You got business.
How can I make you look great on your next performance review?
100%. Yeah. And we're all business people, and we're all humans that require progress. Humans that don't progress, they die spiritually and emotionally 100%. And physically. And 100%. It's like, why don't we? Most people don't have a corner man or corner woman in their. So I always tell people, like, if you meet someone, just push them. Be their corner person. Like, so I don't know. I'm surprised I'm very impressed by your knowledge. But I'm also, now that you're saying, like, you see operations team and you're heartbroken when something's going on, I'm a little heartbroken that people don't know who you are. I mean, unless this is average, I don't know.
Is the thing now. So when I graduated high school, we were using typewriters. So, this.
Do you still own one?
I don't own a typewriter, but I type very well. So that's an advantage. Most people can't type now.
Typewriter story. We have an old client, still a client to this day. He's since retired. All he would do in his business is work off of a typewriter.
IBM.
And no joke.
Yeah.
His email, he never touched. He'd read his email, and if he'd type up proposals. Angel and I talked like 3 years ago. We should let's get him a golden typewriter.
We should totally do it.
We should totally still do it. But yeah, that's so funny.
Because it is. That's right. That's how, it was an advantage to learn that, but also as a disadvantage to just have technology of this level come in the last 20 years. So the kids now it's going to be ingrained in their body.
And do you implement technology into your processes
absolutely,
now? Yeah.
Any way that I can, and I embrace it. I embrace it at such a level that I will instantly get on the programming team. So if they don't have one, I'll develop a programming team. Well, the reason is, I was just getting ready to say, kudos to your wife for doing that. Not only can anybody not even understand the amount of effort it took her to do that. It was a tremendous undertaking. And that's why no one else had done it, because it was a hard undertaking. So she stepped out and did that on her own. She would have got paid the same before without doing doing it, but she made that effort. Then to bring it all together and teach everyone and get it going to where the savings, even though it was a tremendous, probably instant solve and they could see the advantage, the savings are going to be tremendous. So
totally.
You're not even going to see.
Yeah, that 15% raise, I was like, ask for 35.
It's
Over
crazy
the
that
years,
you
they'll
won't
actually
see,
be able
though.
to calculate
Yeah, you're right.
hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of dollars in savings versus, well, we just saved us time right now. And that's a lot of things. If you don't know, you can't measure and you can't write the report. You can't write the case. I get almost every case I ever write approved because I'm writing it with knowledge and with the business in mind, and because I've already demonstrated. Once you demonstrate the ability and the desire to help your company be profitable or not have waste, then they build a trust with you. So you don't have to beg for stuff. And I always say, there's a method. People get mad. I want this. No. Oh, I'm mad now. And I tell them, don't be mad. Plant the seed. And then in another month, make the case again. And you'll get it. I've probably never
This
had
guy's
a
great
no.
at that.
Plant the
This guy's
seed.
great
Plant
at
the
that.
seed.
Yeah.
Don't beg. Plant the
Yeah.
seed.
This guy,
Don't be
this guy will
mad.
plant the seed 8 months out, and then
Exactly.
I see it coming now. But yeah,
Now you know his
He
method.
thinks he sees it.
Yeah.
Never.
but you're
You
absolutely
save something
But
in the pocket.
Yeah.
we always say that to our employees. You want something?
make a case.
Well, hell yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell us why though.
Yeah, make
Show us your
Make
research.
make a case.
Show
And they
us
do,
that
and you're
you
reasonable people.
100%. Because it doesn't make business like we're too smart in business with just pure logic, not even strategy, just pure logic. What does the data say? Why do you think it'll improve? What's my return? If you can show me those three things, and the return and we always say, like I always say, there's return on investment, there's return on objective, and then there's return on time, which return on time and objective does feed the big ROI, but sometimes you can't prove ROI with certain initiatives right off the bat, but you can prove, oh, well, because James, you'll have 5 more hours.
Yeah, return.
Oh, I
return
get
on
5 more. Okay, interesting. So it cost me $5,000,
And do
but I
you
get
speak to
5
that?
hours more. Oh yeah.
After you approve it, do you go back and say, I'm very willing to approve good cases made? Do you let your team know this person made this case and look what we did? We added this because this person took the
Ooh,
courage.
I haven't done the
Speak
double
to-
reinforcement.
And then they'll do it more and more. They will be more invested in improving your business than you will.
Okay,
You know what bothers
so
me?
I'm a
You
big-
know what bothers me, bro? Like, how do we not know
You
this?
do it for your
It's such
kids.
a
You do, and you do it with your
No, you're right.
your pets and
No, you're 100% right. So
Well,
like,
tell her what you're doing with your kids right now. Talk about the reinforcement. I love that, by the
Do
way.
tell.
Especially because you're out of town. I look up to him as a dad, so I always love his systems. I still do what we do at dinner.
so yeah.
I love Buffalo. I'm a
so
30-year-old doing that.
So when I started, when I have to travel, and I know it's hectic for my wife, I have a 6 and a 3-year-old. You're always like, hey, be good for mom, right? And then, of course, that message falls on deaf ears after so long. And then you come back 3 days later or whatever, and were you good for mom? Their answer is always yes. And I guess I'm measuring this. I didn't even realize it.
And you reinforce.
And I reinforce it. And my wife's like, not really. Or, like whatever. And then hopefully it works out, And so I just started saying, hey, mom's going to text me at the end of every single night. If you guys were good, she's going to text me a thumb up emoji. And if you guys were not good, it's a thumb down. And depending on, like, if I'm gone for three days, if you guys get two out of 3, you guys win. You guys get a prize, right? It's reinforced. But more than anything, they don't even care about the prize because typically it's just something as cheap as I can find at the airport on the way out, right? They care about seeing mom's emoji that she texted me in the morning, thumbs up or thumbs down, right? Or getting the call from dad like this morning, hey, you guys got a thumbs up last night. And all of a sudden...
And then they'll be telling you why they got a thumbs up. And stuff.
Yeah. And then
it.
if they get a thumbs down, I go, okay, we're going to talk about that when I get home. It's not a bad talk, but course correction,
yes.
right? Of just like an acknowledgement. So now alluding this to business, the worst thing I think, and I'm taking this to our own business right now, and hopefully the listener can take from this, the worst thing you can do if you have a team, I'm speaking to me right now, is to have your team think any of the great ideas implemented are yours. Because typically they're not. They're really
They
not.
really aren't.
Well
Yeah.
put.
And it's because
Great
And
point,
you don't
bro.
need the credit. You're already the boss.
no, I don't give a shit about the credit. Yeah.
I see it happen all the time.
Yeah.
It happens to me a lot. I see a lot of leaders take credit
Yeah.
for a project I've done. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, I can go on and do the next one. I got plenty. I don't need that one. And if they needed it bad enough, please let them have it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the fact is that at that level, it is very unfair. And they notice. Even the smallest amount of credit stealing is noticed. People talk about it openly.
Oh yeah, but like I don't even want it to be assumed. Like, James and Angel came up with. This is really working. James and Angel must have came up with this. It's like, no, actually.
Well, that's why we gotta say it. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I love the idea of the reinforcement. But that line right there is, you don't need the credit. You're already the boss. You're already the leader. You're already on the top. What is it gonna do for you if you get the credit when you're in the top?
I don't even think people sometimes want credit. I don't even think it's just like for us.
Well,
like,
we don't
we don't care about
but
the credit.
most people do.
But we haven't been intentional with the.
No, agreed.
Hey guys, kudos to whoever for bringing this and implementing it.
And we implemented it, and this is the return. These are the results. So
Yeah,
we're looking
exactly.
for great ideas.
Here are the measurements.
But I love, dude, that's a wake up call real quick. What you just said right there for any leader. If you're not giving credit to which we're good about, we just haven't done the data afterwards.
Yeah, with the
measurements. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I'm going to look straight in the camera on this one, but like, if you're a leader and you're not giving credit to the person that gave you the idea and implemented it, like, what do you need the credit for? You're already on the top. Like, why do you need the credit? But if you need it bad enough, like you said, if you need that credit, you have bigger problems, my friend, that have nothing to do with the business.
And how great do you look if your employees are the ones coming up with this? You did that. I mean, we all know there's no question who's in charge. And in my environment, there's no question why it's running well. But so how fantastic is it if all of my bosses know Raquel by name because she showed up at night and helped me, and I bragged on her. So they're never going to come at me with so-and-so didn't like the way someone looked at him. No, I'm in control, and they know it because I speak.
They'll
to
know Raquel's name too, not just
exactly.
the cleaner.
Exactly.
That company.
That company.
Exactly.
Man.
Very personal. And she deserves that. If she's going to put that extra effort in, and all of that comes out of her pocket because it's her time, her money, her business, she deserves that.
I'm so glad
at the
that we
very
got to
least.
speak to you today because we got to
Thank you, me
interview her.
Yes. Yeah, I told her, you can come sit with me. You can tell them all about your experience because there are tough times too.
Of course.
There are hard times, and
Of
it's
course.
hard to hear, I'm not happy. And it's hard to hear you, in particular, didn't fulfill your part by coming to see me, and I had to make a change. It's never hard, and it's never hard to get that, I'm going to go ahead and end this relationship. But no different than you changing behavior for a lifetime with this exercise of recognizing and reinforcing small bits of behavior. This is going to be something that they carry with them all of their lives. So the ROI on this program that you're doing with your children is unmeasurable. It is not. It's more than $1 million. It's unmeasurable.
absolutely.
Because it'll be there all of their lives, and they'll probably do it with their children as well, and then carry that forward. But think of how much behavior that we can change in just the smallest amount. And some might say it's not my responsibility to change a vendor's behavior, but hey, it is mine because I care about my outcome. I want to constantly, and there's always room for improvement. Anyone can come into one of my facilities and see the areas where I've gotten lazy or where I haven't paid attention to, or teach me something completely new. I had the best experience over the last couple of years with a fantastic safety manager. She really brought my awareness to a whole different space of safety anywhere in the world, but much more importantly in the industrial complexes that we're in where there's all that stuff going on. And so now, the word safety first isn't just a motto that sounds good. It is a reality because no one wants to lose anyone, no one. And so it's just like that formation for me. I didn't always carry that with me, but when I went to my new space, me and the safety manager bonded because she instantly recognized that I was there as a friend, and no longer would she have to be in a resistance room because the safety manager's job is not fun. They're always teaching, they're always talking about things, and they always seem to be limiting things. Your person can't get on that without wearing that, and your person isn't allowed to touch that because they're not certified. So they end up being the adversarial position. So instantly I go in, I bond, I make a friend, and I become their advocate at the table. Where before they may have been sitting at the executive table with 10 people that could care less or wouldn't execute or wouldn't listen, and now they've got a friend in there, and it gets more powerful because I can start helping her identify or him, and I can start helping them become more value add as well. And all the way around, we're winning because nobody's dying that day.
All right. What in a great way. My mind's racing right now. Like, I don't even know what to ask because I wouldn't, you don't know what I want to do right now? I want to go hang out with my team and I want to work. That's what I really want to do.
See what
right
you can
now.
do. And I guarantee, I would love to hear the story. I would be so thrilled if you text me back and go, you're not going to believe this, but after we did this 2 weeks later, I promise you'll see instantaneous results. It's almost like cause and effect. You ask for it, it'll be there, and you will visually see the results, and pretty soon everyone will start to see the results. And you'll look around one day and go, I'm 20% more profitable. Huh? Or my customers are 10% happier. Or my employee surveys. A lot of people don't care about employee surveys, but they're as important as a customer survey.
100%.
Listen, Karen, I know we can sit here and talk for
We
3,
could.
5, 7. I could,
Topic.
yeah, I know. Like, I could just sit here and I just should have booked the whole day and just listen to you and just turn it into a mini
love
series
to-
of 20 episodes.
I-
Come back anytime, and I'd love to help anytime. I'm just in service, and if I'm helping you, you're helping someone else, and now they're going home and helping. Think of that impact that we're making.
Yes.
100%.
Yes, ma'am.
And let us help you too, right?
Thank you.
Don't
Very kind.
just don't fall in the syndrome of like we all help and I don't need anything. No,
Well, just
that's-
inviting me here is helpful because I spent the last 2 weeks really thinking through
Yeah.
the role and how, and at first I wrote the whole concept from if I was talking to other facility managers, because
yeah,
we want everyone to be in the same caring position when their oversight is caring for other people. And then I had to remind myself, no, I'm talking to the vendor. I got to help them figure out how to get more for their dollar and switch that around. So.
this was a master class, and if you think this is how we help by putting you on a podcast,
You made me think.
no, I'm just letting you
Help
know,
others.
like we're just getting started.
Just wait.
This is
Yeah.
not how we help. This is how we start.
Well,
be
anytime,
ready.
and happy to help or give feedback. It always helps to have a second set of ears or something. So thank you guys. Y'all are
Thank you
doing
so
wonderful
much.
things
Appreciate you. Here, we'll do it. And we always have to end it with a little music. Yeah, there you go. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks so much, Karen.
here. I appreciate you.
And that way he don't play like no way. So I gotta get out of my